let's talk about the fear. And you triggered a thought. I noticed when I've been traveling quite a bit, as much as I'm legally allowed to, assuming things are open. And when I'm in the airport now, all of those public service announcements that used to tell me to look out for potential terrorists and suspicious behavior, they're all
Yeah.
gone. And
Yeah.
been replaced with how to properly wear your mask
Yep.
and make sure you stand 6 feet away from everybody else. And I think we're at that part where whatever the proper government response to the pandemic was a year ago, we're just into the fear mongering
Yeah.
phase of it. And it strikes me that um, the reason that the Biden administration, Joe Biden is fully vaccinated. He doesn't need to wear a mask anymore, assuming that the vaccines work.
Right.
But he needed it to pass $2 trillion in boondoggle spending that we don't have, a tiny fraction of which actually went to people and virus mitigation. He's
Right.
queuing up another 3 trillion, and of course the vaccine passport. So it's a shameless exploitation of a crisis that at this point is being manufactured by the government, from my perspective.
It is hypochondria as policy, and not just as government policy, but as social policy. 15 days to slow the spread has turned into stay away from everyone that you care about until all disease is eradicated from mankind. Putting aside the, I'm not sure if it's Orwellian or Kafka-esque nature of being in a crowded airport where we are repeatedly told over the speaker by whoever the mayor of that town is that the airport's in that we should all stay 6 feet away from each other. We can barely stay 6 inches away from each other. I'm thinking about, when I'm in like Charlotte Douglas Airport or Newark Airport or, O'Hare, you're not, the odds of staying 6 feet away, and then you get on the plane and you're well within 6 feet of like a dozen people, and they're repeatedly telling you to socially distance. Putting aside just the absurd nature of being told something that everyone acknowledges is fundamentally and physically impossible, yeah, it's backing up this sort of hypochondria of like, you could get sick, you could die if you don't listen to the government. And that's really what it comes down to. It's less about the mask, it's less about the lockdown, it's less about the specific policy, and it's certainly less about the virus itself than it is about this overwhelming idea, this overarching idea that if you don't listen to the government, you might die. And it goes back to how they always deal with things, whether it's terrorism or a pandemic or anything else. You create policies that either lead to the problem happening or make it worse. We know that the CDC and the FDA didn't allow testing for COVID for the first month plus that the virus was here, which is what allowed it to spread out of control. Then you had multiple state governments that were shoving COVID patients in nursing homes, which made the fatality rate go through the roof and freak everyone out. So you instill that fear through bad policy, either intentionally or unintentionally. You then leverage that fear to push for draconian policies. When those draconian policies inevitably do not work, you then blame it on the fact that you don't have enough power, and then you push for even more power. And then when that fails, you just continue a cycle of pushing for more and more power.